You guys missed this, but I started this program out by talking about, some ways in which companies can think a little differently about their sales and marketing. I'd like to talk a little bit about maybe how we applied some of that thinking at these four
Mhm.
companies that we worked with. We practiced what we preached with that live audit of Christian's company, Healthy, in terms of what he was trying to accomplish and what he might want to consider. And I really feel like this part of it is going to be talking about what some of the outcomes might look like. We
Mhm.
were able to pretty quickly find four good Square 2 clients who have had good experiences with us and have had seen good results. So I appreciate you guys joining me, and I'll let you kind of carry the ball here. I'll provide some color and moderate the conversation. But I wanted to start out with LegacyArmour. LegacyArmour is a client of ours. I believe I did a little bit of a description here. Sure. They provide digital vault services for your most important electronic files. So if you have a will, if you have car insurance, if you have a deed, if you have even personal items like old pictures or things like that, they are able to kind of protect these documents in an electronic filing system that is obviously better than Google folders and some of those, free services. They're a startup with some initial funding. We were working with the co-owners, and I'll let KA and Julie pick up the story from there.
Okay, why don't you give a little bit more background on the genius behind the system, because it is in a lot of ways more than a vault. So why don't you tell a little bit more about some of the smarts that they had put into and how they employed it?
Sure. The husband and wife team both have a background in computer science and specifically cybersecurity. And they had gone through an estate situation where there was lost paper, lost inheritance. It was a very personal lost wealth to solve this. So they were driven that they didn't want anyone else to go through this. So they have a really interesting bridge of the personal story, but also a very technical background. And what's really great with the vault is you can have multiple compartments in it if you wanted to leave a message for certain family or friends. It also is one of the only systems that encrypts on the way in. So that way, a lot of systems where you might upload, you still have the potential to get hacked or viruses. This is far more secure. And they also use a lot of AI to track, are you still active on your normal socials? They can also help detect life changes. If something's gone on, hey, should we add this documentation for the new house in here? So they kind of keep a pulse, and they'll also check in. If you were to disappear for a while and no response, that you have assignees that you can check into. So it's really a nice, especially in our current times, nice checks and balance that everything is going okay.
Yeah. And, for LegacyArmour, it was very personal story, as you could hear there, and they didn't want anyone else to ever have that kind of loss in there. You're already dealing with loss in some of these cases. This is really about your legacy and making sure that your wishes are reached your family as well, and that your will is managed in the right way, and all of that other stuff. And you could say that this is a good starting point story that, from a UX standpoint, to throw in a lot of stuff at the visitor as they come in the door, and they're really missing on the opportunity to tell that heart tug story a little bit. Mike, can you go down to the next slide? I think you included some messaging that we had recreated for them.
I did. So just to keep everyone on the same page. So this is their old website. This is the LegacyArmour website before we started working with them. And you heard KA describe this business. You really don't get any of the nuance the way KA described it from their old website. And to Julie's point, and I mentioned this in my session earlier, the emotional connection from a marketing perspective is critical, and it's missing here. It's a very sterilized, very kind of like analytical story around what they do. And while completely accurate, just was not effective at really moving the needle in terms of getting people engaged with them. So I did include our upgraded messaging and upgrading website experience, at least it's not live. It's just a snapshot of this particular page. but this is what we help them transition to. This is what they're running live today.
And you could see the message is a lot more poignant to the point in life that these people are trying to protect, what they're trying to protect, and answer a pain answered very eloquently in the headline, then goes on to explain a little bit more of what they do. And what we wound up doing for LegacyArmour was, initially we were charged with focusing a little bit more on campaign messaging, right? But as we built this big story for them, it had a wonderful place on their website. And you've heard a lot about the accelerator in your time with us here today. Just a little bit of an outline of what we were able to accomplish for these folks in just a few weeks. We revised their messaging, we got to know their business, and then we told, this is just the top of the webpage, we went on to tell a much more easy to follow story that really answers the pains of the people looking for a product like this. We had done a competitive audit, we had done SEO work, we had done 5 assets for them to employ for conversion points on their website, because that's what your website should be doing, is converting visitors to prospects. And in that short period of time, 4 weeks, we created 5 assets and did nurture campaigns and analytic reporting and demand generation. I'll let KA speak a little bit to what we deployed and what the results were.
Yeah, I also want to point out that these guys have a similar kind of go-to-market to Healthy too. They are looking for insurance companies to help distribute their product to their customer bases. So they also have multiple targets that they're going after. You can see at the top, families and individuals, agents and advisors, businesses. If we were able to dig into that, again, this isn't a live website page just for demonstration purposes, but you would see that the stories are slightly different. The content experiences are slightly different. We're trying to make sure that we're delivering the right experience for the right people at the right time. So KA, I did try to capture a little bit of what we did and what some of the outcomes have been. If you want to talk a little bit about this case study specifically, feel free.
Sure. So one of the key elements we did as we were defining their messaging and their audiences, as you can see, like the families and individuals that would buy a subscription versus like an agent or advisor, like your CPA or insurance agent that's going to offer this as a white glove service. The pains and goals there are very disparate. So we had very defined audiences, which was helpful to them. I think a common growing pain in a lot of companies is you want your product to be available to everyone. And when a product's everything to everyone, it gets very diluted. And so while it was kind of it's a painful exercise to take that Band-Aid off and narrow down your niche, they now have very targeted markets within the financial, insurance, and then the consumer side. And now that we've actually been able to narrow down and not answer the question, we can do that, but we do that well. It's also really altered their sales strategy and approach. They've got really fine-tuned targets. We're continually getting emails of they talk to a new prospect off of this narrow list. So now that it's tailored content at the right time to the right audience, they can also focus their efforts, and they're seeing far more traction and conversion from the efforts.
Yeah, it's a really good point. This isn't just a marketing outreach story. It's also a sales story. They have a much stronger sales message when they are talking to these multi-sale prospects, right? They have a much better ability to position their company comparison when comparing other similar products. I mean, this isn't an innovative product when you think about it. It might, some of the elements of it might be innovative and it might be a little bit better than some of the other options out there, but electronic file storage is not new news, right? So they have to find a way to tell a much more compelling story, and it can't simply be about the technology. There has to be other elements to it as well. Good. Julie, anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so that's LegacyArmour. Let's talk a little bit about Novis. Novis, also a startup with some initial funding. This company is specifically looking to redefine how people view and receive healthcare services, and they're actually trying to coin a new phrase called functional medicine. So this has a whole bunch of challenges in and of itself. In this case, multiple partners and co-owners, and they're trying to manage their own funding sources as best they possibly can. It's a franchise model, so they're trying to sell franchises. But this idea of creating a new category is probably worth talking about a bit. It is extremely aspirational, but it is also extremely expensive and takes a lot of time. So I think it's great that companies want to create their own category, as long as they recognize that creating their own category has a whole set of additional marketing requirements that come along with it. Not only are they marketing Novis Health, but now they're also marketing functional medicine. And they basically have two efforts here. How do I tell the world about functional medicine? And then how do I get them to want to come to Novis to actually get functional medicine? So I'm not sure this company realized what they were doing when they got into that, but I think it's worth sharing with other people who are trying to create categories. I think it's an admirable effort. I think it's the right thing to do. If you look at, I always point to HubSpot and inbound marketing as the most successful effort of creating a category to drive sales of a particular product or service. There was no inbound marketing before HubSpot came along. They created this methodology. They called it inbound marketing, and their software was the product that was going to help you deliver it. So, that was an extremely successful effort to create a category. Not every company can execute at that level. And it does present a whole entire set of challenges. Just to give you a specific example, they had to write a book about inbound marketing. Had nothing to do with HubSpot and their software. That whole effort to create that book and their whole effort to create an entire event called Inbound, where yes, HubSpot was highlighted, but not featured. Those are investments in the segment that you have to be comfortable with in order to pull through your product and service. So again, if that's a strategy you're going to take, understand the extra challenges that come along with it. Anything you two guys want to add?
Just a little bit around, I think we can go and look at some of the work that was where they started and where we took them. But, for them, HubSpot truly created the concept of inbound medicine, of inbound marketing. Sorry about that. Functional medicine is a new term, and the people who are playing in this space are big guys like the Cleveland Clinic, and they're the ones who are starting to establish it as, so they have a little bit of drag from the big guys, but it's still very much a new concept in terms of how people address health issues. And this isn't all health for all people. For Novis, it's very much about treating folks with ongoing chronic conditions and helping them take control of their lives, take control of their health. Folks with diabetes and thyroid issues that can be managed with behavioral changes, diet changes, health changes. So the core of the message here, is this is almost so generic and so high level, doesn't really get to the root of the problem that functional medicine solves. Whereas the message that we created for them was a lot more centered around this idea of taking control, of getting your health, being at the wheel in your healthcare. Why don't you pop over to your screen grab of the message we came up with. We provided them with a bunch of options, but this is the one we landed on. And the message here was, a better tomorrow is in your and our hands together, your hands together. And it's about taking charge and knowing that you can have a step in managing these ongoing conditions and live a better life, live a healthier life with your family. So this was a big shift for them in terms of thinking about their prospects rather than thinking about the system that those prospects are stuck in, right? Very aspirational, very forward thinking about where functional medicine can take people and making it clear to the prospects coming to this website what exactly it is and what they offer. It's about coaching, it's about advanced healing techniques, it's about having the tools you need to live a healthy life. And for Novis, they came to us with almost nothing. I don't think the page the website had more than 2 pages on it. And in the 4 weeks that we were working with them, we created an entire website, a minimum viable website, launched, written, designed, and launched in that period of time. We created assets and conversion points and campaigns to help support the message here as well. So much got done in such a short period of time to help them really have a heads up on getting their business seen, heard, and heard in the clutter behind companies like Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a big upgrade too. Like I talked earlier about how you have 10 seconds to get someone's attention and make an emotional connection with them and explain to them what you do. I mean, this is so, I know there's a little bit of copy at the bottom, but it's so clear around, blending functional medicine, expert health coaching, and advanced healing technology. Like those are all interesting concepts. If this appeals to you, what is functional medicine at the top? If someone wants to learn a little bit more about it. And that really emotional message that basically says, like, if you don't take control of your own health, you might not be around for the people that you care about. It's very compelling, and it does very quickly get my attention and make me, if I'm interested, stick around and want to look around, which is the goal here. If I'm not, I'm off, and that's perfectly fine. But for those people that are connected with this, it does make a lot of sense, the upgrade. I mean, their initial website looked, it was very kind of sterile and generic, and it didn't really do a good job quickly telling me what they did. And it did an even worse job emotionally connecting with me and making me feel something, which is often overlooked and important.
Yeah, it felt very general medicine as opposed to functional medicine, which is a very nascent new a concept in healthcare, and it requires an explanation. What is it? I need to know what it is, and why is it good for me in my situation? We went on, we touched on a lot of stuff during their accelerator to help them get that lift they needed. They had and have a complicated scenario because they are trying to expand into new geographic areas, because this is very much a face-to-face kind of business. So you noticed on the comp, there was a find a location button as well, and they're trying to help all of their franchises in these new locations build lead generation and business for them. So we had to create a demand generation campaign that touched different geographies and different messages, and as well as a referral marketing campaign to help them leverage the experts in their space, because they had relationships with other medical professionals in their different locations. So there's a lot of wrangling cats to get everybody to have a similar message and have it resonate across all geographies.
Yeah, they had a slightly different challenge too, that actually I didn't capture here. It's just remembering it now. They were also having trouble getting people who signed up for appointments to show up for appointments. So, when you think about their business versus some other businesses, it's a little different, right? Getting someone to say, I want an appointment, doesn't pay the bills. You literally have to get that person to come into the appointment, sign up for the service. If I remember correctly, this is not an insurance model. This is all private pay. So again, you have to get someone who is willing to, invest in their health and think a little bit differently than what most people think about is, well, what doctor takes my insurance and who's in network, and those typical kind of health related decisions. So I remember we talked to them about what is that nurture process around the people who have signed up for appointments. What's the reminder service? They had some technology they were using that we ended up replacing with HubSpot to make that reminder sequence a little more elegant and more consistent. I don't think we have any data yet on how they're doing in terms of appointment, like no-shows versus actual appointments, but I'm sure we'll look at that shortly. But they were able to see an increase in website visitors and an increase in leads for franchisees. Those are the people who are signing up for appointments, and even an increase in people who are looking for franchisees, which I know is important to them. They're trying to sell more franchises and grow their revenue base from franchise licensing fees as well. So it was a little bit of a different kind of approach for us with some slightly different objectives, but still, nonetheless, they were a startup. They needed to move quickly. They had some very lofty goals for 2022 and end of 2021. And they, to your point, Julie, they really didn't have much when they came
Right.
to us. And now they have a really nice set of tools to drive revenue, marketing, sales, and revenue for the entire organization.
Yeah, for them in particular, I think the 0 to 60 in 4 weeks was pretty impressive in terms of what they started with and what we were able to accomplish for them, just to get them the foundational pieces to build their marketing and their business off of.
Agreed. KA, anything you want to add?
Oops.
Sorry, I'm muted there. I would agree. I think the speed to market they had in the accelerator made a huge difference in the impact on their ROI for their results there.
Yeah, they also did, they were kind of resource strapped. They had one person in their marketing department, which again is not too common, but
Right.
our ability to kind of bolt ourselves on to their single person marketing effort allowed them to get stuff that probably would have taken a 6 or 7 person marketing team to get done in the same amount of time. So, you know, if you think about, especially in today's market, how long would it take to hire even 3 or 4 people? You know, you're probably talking 3 or 4 months for sure before you even get anything done, right? Now you're talking about getting all this stuff done in a short amount of time and really impacting the business in weeks, you know, not months or longer.
For sure.
Good. Moving on.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So let's talk about CONSTRUCTO. CONSTRUCTO, interesting. Another one of our startup clients. They provide software for automating plans and permits for residential construction projects. So if you've ever done anything in your home, you typically have your contractor or you typically manage it, and it's a very paper intensive effort that could take weeks and involve you working with local government officials who aren't completely always aligned with what you're trying to accomplish from your own personal perspectives. So, you know, this is an interesting product with an interesting place in the market. They're a startup. They have some initial funding and a PE partner, and we're working with the founder here. This is what the site looked like when we came along. Now, it's pretty, like, it looks nice.
It's very straightforward.
Right. And it's
exactly how
actually
you
quite
described it.
utilitarian, right? Plans and permits for ADU additions and remodels. So yes, that is what they do. But again, it's not really getting anybody excited. And we converted it to this. So Julie, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Right. So what you're seeing here is, you know, the difference between before and after is very clear about the goal, the desire, the emotion, the need, right? And, you know, okay, it's very important for a visitor to know what you do in the first seconds that they land on your website. But also important, incredibly important, is for them to connect with your message and understand why they want you versus the other competitors that are out there. You get me, Mr. Constructo, because when I do an addition on my home and I am looking to start, you know, I'm taking this plan on myself. I'm not outsourcing it to my contractor. I'm in charge. That's what the CONSTRUCTO prospect looks like, right? Someone who is taking control of the situation. But it's a lot to take control of, and it's a lot to manage. And one of the things that CONSTRUCTO does is that they're recognizing the fact that you're taking the time to transform your home. That's yours. Those are very carefully placed in those headlines because we understood from working with the business owner here that his prospects are very they're control freaks. They want to manage every aspect of their remodel, and they want all the papers in the same place and all the documents in the same place, and they want control of the situation. So you transform your home, and we're helping them bring that vision to life and making their job so much simpler to engage with these architectural and engineering people.
Yeah,
So,
I also like how you know, you have to keep in mind the personas on these websites, right? Like, this is probably not a budget oriented person who is going to be using CONSTRUCTO for their plans and permitting process. So look at the people we're obviously highlighting here. That's a high-end house, right? With some high-end features that are not, this isn't a McMansion. This is probably a custom project that they envisioned and had built for themselves. So again, we're using visuals to connect with the right people who would be the right prospects for this particular service.
And there's a little bit less of an assumption when you come to this page versus the other page of what exactly stage the buyer is at when they come here. Like you can see that we took some time to talk about before you can begin your home improvement project, you need this, this, and this. So it sets up the scenario for why you need Constructo versus doing everything in spreadsheets and emails and separate solutions. So this very, very much gives a little bit more opportunity for people to understand why Constructo is a solution that they might want, and understanding that some of them come a little pre-aware of what the pain is, right? They know they have this problem, but they don't even know that there's potentially a solution for it. When they get here, they very quickly see that Constructo has the options. And you can see there's a how it works and what you get, because again, like Mike said about Novis, to some degree, this is not necessarily something people, this is a nice to have, not a want to have or need to have all the time.
Right.
So this really sets up a nice scenario for people to understand why it is a little bit more of a need to have and why it's going to make your project run smoother and save you money in the long run.
Yeah, very good. And here's a little summary of, whoop, sorry. Here's a little summary of the project here.
And like all of our accelerators, there was a lot of work generated in a short period of time. We got up to speed very quickly on the client, the technology that we were working with, the services we were working with. We revised his message. In fact, and this is a kind of a recurring theme with these projects that we work on, where, you know, we are a pretty agile shop. So people come in with a certain list of things, and if we're super efficient and rolling at a good rate, they wind up getting more than they even knew that they were walking in the door for, you know. So in Constructo's case, and the same is true with Novis, we actually did more on their website than we originally planned, just because program was going well and we're getting a lot done. We had a very strong focus on paid campaigns and SEO to get those people who might be searching for a solution adjacent to or similar to Constructo's and drive those folks to the site. We revised the messaging. We created landing pages and nurtures and all of that stuff to help drive conversions for the website.
Yeah, and he had limited resources as well. I believe
Very
in this
much
case,
so.
we really worked with him, right? The CEO.
Absolutely.
So he even had less resources than Novis did in terms of an ability to execute. And the results speak for themselves. His website visitors are up almost 50%. He's driving a chunk of change from organic there, which is a result of the SEO upgrades to his website and the content that we provided. His leads are up 9x or 10x, depending on what month you look at. And his revenue is up as well. So again, you know, startup company, funded, limited resources, you know, wanted to get started in 2021 very quickly. And this program absolutely delivered, probably beyond his expectations, I would guess. Now, you know, as I said in my session earlier, you have to continue, and we're going to talk about this in a second, because this is really the TruMethods story too, but, you know, marketing isn't one and done. So I think, you know, if I was talking to Constructo leadership, I would say, like, you really need to continue to invest in order to continue to see similar up and to the right, because the pop that you got from this effort might not be sustained unless there's continual fuel for that fire going forward. If you think like you're good to go and this is going to carry you and it's just going to continue to get better, I think that's a mistaken philosophy that a lot of people take when it comes to marketing. Oh, I invested in something. I worked on it for 6 months. I'm good now. Let me go do something else. Let me save some money on marketing. And unfortunately, that's not how it works. I've seen plenty of client programs degrade even back to pre-engagement levels, or even worse, after the gas is the foot's taken off the pedal, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, marketing is a core function in anybody's business. And, you know, you wouldn't do finance for 6 months and then stop managing your financial function.
Right.
So we do talk to our clients about lovely pop from the accelerator, but let's keep the ball rolling.
Right.
And the consistent analytics. I think folks want a silver bullet. If paid works this month, let's move everything into paid next month. But you got to keep an eye on the analytics. What worked then might not work next month. So you need to keep a full pulse at all times.
Yeah, and as we also been talking about all through this event, omni-channel is really important too, right? You can't just really rely on one channel. To your point, KA, like paid may be working great, but you can't just do paid, right? Because paid might degrade, but you're also missing out on the opportunities to drive visitors and leads and revenue from some of the other channels too. Not everybody is searching for things. Not everyone is on social. There have to be other ways to get in front of your prospects, other ways to get your message out, other ways to attract interest back to your website and drive those interactions on your own. So leaning on one channel is generally also not going to be something we would recommend. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Our last case study is a company called TruMethods. Now, TruMethods might be one of Square 2's Hall of Fame. I mean, they are one of Square 2's Hall of Fame clients. We have a nice collection of Hall of Fame clients. They've been with us for many, many years. They really, specifically about what we were just talking about, they really understood how marketing was an investment and they need to be investing in it every single month. They had alignment from up and down through the organization around marketing. It was a real priority to them. They kind of understood how to make the company stand out from a remarkable perspective and had a nice understanding of content and how that fits in. But what TruMethods does is they provide software, education, and community services for companies, people who own managed service provider, MSP businesses. Now, if you're not familiar, an MSP is somebody that might take care of your company's laptops, internet, security, cyber security, your network, maybe your file storage requirements. There are many, many, many of these small MSPs out there in the community. Most small to medium-sized businesses use an MSP to help them with these IT requirements. Even bigger companies with internal IT teams sometimes lean on outside managed service provider companies to help them with certain aspects of the IT infrastructure puzzle. So there's a lot of businesses that lean on companies like TruMethods to learn how to run their MSPs more effectively, right? It was a family business. They had an exit as a goal. They had a founder leading the organization. And we worked with not only the founder, but with the relatively small marketing team that TruMethods had. So they've been a client for so long. We actually don't have a pre-Square 2 website for them, but this is what their current website looks like. And you can see that it's really about them working together with their MSP clients. And again, if this was a live website, you would see those colored elements. They kind of cascade down the page and build to give people the idea that this is like a multi-dimensional program here that requires software and training and peer-to-peer learning and all kinds of components in order to get these MSPs to where they're trying to get to. Here's a little snapshot of what we did for them. And I actually have some data because we have worked with them for so long. Again, they wanted to ramp up growth. They had a small marketing department. They were on HubSpot, but they knew they weren't really leveraging HubSpot to its fullest degree. So they wanted some help in making sure that they were taking getting full value for HubSpot. And we basically moved them along the HubSpot product line over the time that we worked for them. They needed a better story. They needed a better website experience. They did run regular outreach campaigns, and they were very good at supporting SEO, social, and targeted paid media. And they reaped the results here. They doubled website visitors, and they really did go from 40 leads a month to 400 leads a month, and from 25 new customers to 50 new customers a month. So these are very dramatic lifts, and they did it over a period of time. You can see from the charts, those are years. They're probably, I probably showed you a 4 to 5 year window just so you could see how long it takes to actually get traction. Now, these guys had a modest budget to invest. They were not spending $20,000 a month. And as I said in the very first segment of the program today, you can get by with a smaller budget if you have a longer time horizon, and they were comfortable with that. So visitor growth started first, and then lead growth came second, and new customer growth followed after that. And it's a very marathon approach to this. You cannot take a sprint approach. As much as we are excited to talk about the accelerator, and the accelerator does get a lot done in a short amount of time, the real advice here is to be persistent and think about it as a marathon, and really go into it wondering, like, every month, what am I going to do to drive this up? And I think TruMethods is a really great case study for someone that took a longer term view to it and did the hard work along the way. And that you see at the bottom, they had a successful exit in 2021, which we know was their goal when we first started working with them. So, KA, I know you worked with them specifically. What other kind of color commentary can you add to the story here?
It's kind of funny. I feel like we sent them off to college or something.
Right.
They've grown and matured. I would agree. I think they, while they're in that MSP area, they didn't have any direct competitors for all of their areas. They developed a lot of approaches that were new. So it was a complicated message to kind of weave all of their products together into a solution, but that was something they needed to do to be appealing for sales. So I think that was a huge success. I also think they are probably one of the most impressive examples of doing more with less or working smarter. If you saw the breadth of campaigns and outreach, you would think they had a large corporate marketing team of like 10 people minimum. It was 3 people. It was scaled to leverage HubSpot functioning almost as a full employee or maybe 2. So that's a huge bandwidth there. And like Mike said, it was the long vision. We invested more time in strategy to make sure it was scalable, and then also what could be automated to alleviate their resources to do more. It's probably one of the most well road-mapped and strategically planned that I've seen, and that long vision of let's not worry about just tomorrow, but what's going to build and sustain leads. So I think, and that's a very hard thing to do. Like, I know we all want immediate results in all areas of our lives, but those aren't
true.
the last.
So good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julie. Anything you want to add to this story?
Yeah, I think one of the things we kind of glossed over just a little bit is that, and you said it at the very beginning, Mike, that they came to us with a certain appreciation for marketing and message and branding. They came to us with some of their programs already branded to be memorable and thoughtful and differentiated in their space. They know themselves, they're a quirky company with a quirky personality. They know that their prospects are on the spectrum closer to the quirkiness as well. Like that visual on their homepage, it essentially builds like a Tetris puzzle. They know who they're speaking to. They know the nerd quotient involved there, and they leaned into it. They have
Schnizzfest, right.
Is their annual gathering of the MSPs, and
Yep.
they gave it personality and style. That stuff matters. It tends to
does.
resonate and stick with people.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, they did kind of understand how to stand out. They understood Remarkable really well,
Yeah.
and it paid off. So I do have a free prize inside for people who have stayed this long and have watched this all the way to the end. So at Square 2, we are more than happy to take a look at one of your portfolio companies, no obligation. So if you simply email Eric at square2marketing.com and put in the subject line, review my portfolio company, one of us will be more than happy to hop on a call with you, talk a little bit about your company, what you're trying to accomplish, what you've done, where you want to go. And then we'll come back and give you some recommendations, no obligation. Take them, implement them yourselves, take them, hire someone else to do it. That's completely up to you. But we're more than happy to help you with that. And if you did like some of the content here, where we have a webcast called What's Wrong with Revenue, we do it every week, and it tackles some of the challenges that we've been talking about here today. If you want to check it out, you can go to the square2marketing.com website. At the bottom in the footer, there's a link called What's Wrong with Revenue, and you can take a look at the live cast. You can subscribe to it. You can check out all the shows. You can even submit questions for us to answer for you live on the show every Wednesday. And if you're more a YouTube kind of person, head on over to YouTube. And if you type in Square 2 Marketing or What's Wrong with Revenue, you should find it, or you can click on the link here and it'll take you right to the show. I really appreciate everybody participating. KA, Julie, I really appreciate you stepping in and helping with the case study panel. I think it's been a great event. I hope everyone who listened to it or is going to listen to it on demand also feels the same way. Again, thanks so much for attending. You guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.